Call it fate, call it luck, call it karma. I believe that everything happens for a reason.
In 1984, the greatest year in movie history, there was a small little movie that almost didn't make it to the box office on time. It was a labor of love written especially for John Belushi and Eddie Murphy. Sadly, one passed away and the other became such a huge star, his schedule and the movie's budget couldn't really handle it. Dan Aykroyd, who came up with the concept and co-wrote the script, leaned into his own beliefs in the supernatural, but with the help of Harold Ramis and the direction of Ivan Reitman, we got Ghostbusters. More on that later. But is this movie any good? I'm Meffistoe. Like, share, and subscribe because this is my review of the movie Ghostbusters.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass. Did you see it? What is it? We got it!
There's a lot of backstory and production issues that revolved around this movie that I cannot get really into in this review. I do like to keep these reviews relatively spoiler-free just in case you have never seen this movie before. Aykroyd wrote the script for himself and his best friend John Belushi. It was a completely different thing and it was much darker than the comedy we got. Once Belushi died, the script had to be changed and Ramis came aboard to help change it with a little bit of input from the director Ivan Reitman. Eddie Murphy was set to play Peter Venkman, but when that fell through, Bill Murray took on the role.
It's right here, Ray. It's looking at me.
He's an ugly little spud, isn't he?
As for the name itself, Ghostbusters was the name of a TV show for kids about detectives who look for ghosts, starring Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker. When it came to producing the movie, some of the scenes were actually shot twice because right up to the last minute, the studio didn't know if they can use the name Ghostbusters or not. One scene was famously not shot twice, and it was the scene in front of the apartment building at the third act of the movie. The people kept yelling Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, and they just kept that and said, to hell with it, no more ghost breakers. The actual Ghostbusters tale starts with the introduction of the concept of ghosts in a local library. Then it cuts to introducing us to the trio of researchers, Ray Stantz, Peter Venkman, and Egon Spangler. Ray receives a call and he musters the other two to investigate the library as they encounter a real-life ghost for the very first time. Sadly, when they get back to the university, they discover that they're being thrown out because it was a waste of time of the university's money and time. So Venkman convinces Ray to take out a loan and go into private business. The business? Well, there's an ad for it.
You or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Ghostbusters!
Things aren't going that well until a beautiful woman called Dana has an incident and contacts the Ghostbusters, and of course Peter is ready to help out. Venkman goes to Dana's apartment and finds nothing, but he is infatuated with Dana and vows to help her out. This visit seems to trigger something because after that, and right when the businesses seem to go under, the crew gets a call to a local hotel to find and eradicate a disturbance.
We got one!
After that initial success, things are rolling in and the Ghostbusters are knee-deep in customers and work. So much so that they have to bring in an outside help in the form of employee Winston Zeddemore.
If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
Sadly, this increase in business also attracts the Environmental Protection Agency in the form of Walter Peck, an inspector that just wants to know what the guys are actually doing. Of course, he gets rebuffed by Dr. Venkman and vows to come back with a warrant.
Or I come back with a court order.
You go get a court order, and I'll sue your ass for wrongful prosecution.
At this point, things get kicked into high gear as two dog-like creatures seem to take over the lives of Dana and her neighbor, Louis Tully. And this comes to the attention of our crew. First, it's Peter that goes to visit Dana and encounters something different.
There is no Dana, only Soul.
What a lovely singing voice you must have.
Parallel to that, Lewis gets pinched by the police and brought to the Ghostbusters for evaluation. Egon and Ray ran some tests and find that Lewis is not a regular human anymore.
There's something very strange about that man.
It all comes to a head when Walter Peck shows back up at the Ghostbusters station with a warrant and forces the shutdown of the protection grid that keeps all the captured ghosts from escaping out into the open. And now the ghosts are out and the city is in trouble. And who are you gonna call?
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes, the dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I of course skipped on a lot of very important information because I want you to explore it yourself. And if you're a longtime fan, it might urge you to rewatch the movie for the 100th time. This movie is an absolute joy from start to finish. I watched it when I was a bit too young for the ghosts and too young for the blue humor in the movie, but I have to say that I liked it from the very first time I saw it. It starts off scary as if you're about to watch a horror flick. This is the only reminder to Aykroyd's initial script, but then it immediately mellows out with Dr. Venkman's obvious biased experiment.
Is it a star?
It is a star.
Very good. That's great.
Right from the get-go, you get a feeling for the trio's distinct characters. Peter is the hound dog, Ray is the dreamer, and Egon is the dry scientist. Although Venkman is a womanizer and a bit of aloof, it doesn't mean that he's not smart. In fact, the entire crew, including Winston, have a pretty good head on their shoulders. The fact that they do have a separate and distinct personality actually creates the humor and comedy between them all.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
The supporting cast have their day in the sun as well. Annie Potts playing Janine, the stereotypical don't give a shit New Yorker secretary, keeps the boys in check.
Quit better jobs than this. Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Dana Barrett, played by sci-fi queen Sigourney Weaver, is a choir musician that keeps to herself and rebuffs unwanted advances, whether it's Louis Tully or Peter Venkman.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
Oh, good. That makes me feel so much better.
And of course, Louis Tully, played by the funny Rick Moranis, who gets himself into these comedic situations without noticing it and just has a blast.
That's great. I'll tell everybody you're coming. We're gonna play Twister. We're gonna do some break dancing. Hey, let me in.
And even the minor role of Walter Peck as sort of a secondary villain is played beautifully into that role of the government busybody that just doesn't know what he's dealing with and causes a lot of havoc.
Power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
If you are not into the Ghostbusters franchise because you've never seen it or just watched the dreaded Ghostbusters 2016 version, do yourself a favor and pick up this movie to watch. It's fun, funny, scary, and brilliant. The effects still hold up after all these years, and the theme song will not go out of your head for weeks. I love this movie, and it is a big part of why I tell people constantly that 1984 was the greatest year in movie history, and someday I might even be able to prove it. But for now, I just want you to experience the Ghost Breakers. Sorry, the Ghostbusters.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
I thank you for watching, and remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I'll see you on the next video.